Hi everyone, this is Migs from Sneaks and Ball PH and welcome to episode 2 of the Kobe Hunt. Today we have a quick look and unboxing on the Nike Zoom Kobe 2 Fade to Black. The Nike Zoom Kobe 2 is definitely an interesting shoe because it did release in 2006 to 2007, which meant that this was the first season where Kobe wore the number 24. The Zoom Kobe 2 was also the first shoe that Kobe was very hands-on with, so he really helped throughout the whole design process. But the interesting thing, considering that Kobe did have a lot of input in the design, is that he really didn't like playing in the Kobe 2s. Throughout the 2006 to 2007 NBA season, Kobe did rock the Kobe 2s. However, he would switch it up every so often to the Nike Huarache 2K4s. The fact that Kobe didn't wear the Nike Kobe 2s all throughout the 2006 to 2007 season is probably one of the reasons why it's also not that popular. And probably the biggest example of this shoe not being popular is it didn't get the Protro treatment. So we did already review the Kobe 1 Protros, and after the Kobe 1 Protros, they skipped right ahead to the Kobe 4s, skipping the Kobe 2 and the Kobe 3. It is quite unfortunate that the Kobe 2s didn't get Protroed, but at least we have these. So for this Fade to Black colorway, it actually comes in the Fade to Black pack. The Fade to Black series essentially starts with a pretty light Kobe 1 colorway, and then it keeps getting darker and darker until we reach the Kobe 11, which is pretty much triple black. It definitely was an interesting idea at the time, but I never was a fan of the whole Fade to Black series because, it's just pretty much grays and black, so it's kind of monochromatic and, in my opinion, a little bit boring. Then with that out of the way, let's get into the unboxing. So the box on the Kobe 2 Fade to Black simply has those snake scales all throughout, and then it also goes with the theme because it does come from white here on this side to black here on the other side. Then for the details on the box, you do have this gold Kobe logo surrounded by this gold circle here on the lid, and then on both the front and the back you do have Kobe signature. Then here on this side you have a gold Nike swoosh, and here on the other side, you do have your sizing and colorway information. Then now, time to take a peek at the shoes. So you do have this removable lid. So just popping that open, setting that aside. And then you actually don't get the shoes right away. So you have this sort of, what would you call this? A magazine or a pamphlet. So just taking it out. There's a cool cutout with Kobe's logo. And it actually has some gold behind it. And then on the magazine, you do have another Kobe logo. And it actually has the whole Fade to Black series. There's also a story behind each of the shoes, so that's a really cool touch in my opinion. Then you do have some plain paper, so just putting that down. And yep, it's definitely very light gray. So here you have it, guys. This is the Nike Zoom Kobe 2 Fade to Black. So just taking both shoes out of the box, here you have your right shoe. So it's clearly heavier than the recent Kobe's, but it still isn't too bad considering that it is a mid-cut. So just putting this aside for a while. And then here you have your left shoe. And it actually comes with this sort of tag, which is kind of cool. So it is a leather tag. And you have the Kobe logo here on one side, and then the Kobe signature and Nike swoosh on the other. Then just getting the shoes and returning this thing, closing up the lid. So here you have it, guys. This is the Nike Zoom Kobe 2 Fade to Black. Then just a few quick tech specs on the Nike Zoom Kobe 2. So for the outsole, you do have herringbone. However, it is in this sort of podded setup because the Nike Kobe 2 was the first basketball shoe to feature the Nike Free technology. The Nike Free technology is basically all of these flex grooves throughout the outsole, and this is there to promote flexibility. Then here in the middle of the outsole, you do have this carbon fiber midfoot shank for torsional support. Then moving on to the cushion, this is actually one of the most interesting parts of the shoe because you do have this phylon midsole here on the outside. However, most of the other phylon is just for lateral containment, so your foot only really rests within this phylon here on the forefoot and this phylon here at the back. So as you can imagine, that is a very thin and low to the ground phylon cushion, so it's actually just like, I don't know, the width of my thumb. However, for added impact protection and a little bit of responsiveness, you do have Zoom Air in the shoe. Although it is kind of weird that it is isn't in the midsole. Instead, what Nike did is they stitched it underneath the insole, so that's very, very interesting. They did this because Kobe wanted a really responsive and low to the ground feeling cushion. Since that was their goal, I think they really were able to achieve that, because this is definitely one of the most low to the ground shoes I've ever felt. I'm not really sure how good the impact protection is because, you know, I did try jumping around here at home, and I think it really wasn't adequate enough for me. However, I will try these out on court, so hopefully that cushion isn't too brutal. Then for the materials, you do have this carbon fiber midfoot shank here at the bottom, and then here on the upper, it's pretty much all leather. The leather here, in my opinion, is kind of disappointing because if you watch the Kobe 1 Protro video, you'd know that the leather on those is super duper soft. The leather here on the Kobe 2s is definitely very stiff to the touch, and it's actually very stiff even when you put it on foot. This is actually quite unfortunate because there was the Nike Free technology here on the outsole to promote a lot of mobility, but all of that flexibility and mobility stuff just goes out the window because of this upper that's really stiff. So I probably understand why Kobe didn't enjoy playing in the shoe. Another reason why I think he didn't like playing in the shoe, because you do have this sort of neoprene and mesh inner sleeve, and it actually is quite soft and quite comfy. However, there is a weird thing where if you pull this, you can actually, you know, like put it out of the shoe. Like, not fully because I think it is stitched in here at the forefoot, but it just keeps popping up, and that's very weird. Like, why didn't they stitch this down to the strobel board? It actually makes you feel like you're playing in two separate pieces. So you have this piece on the inside that's soft and moves well with your foot. And then you have this outer shell that's made of this really stiff leather that really doesn't move with your foot at all. So in my opinion, strictly from a first impression, I think that I could have dealt with the traction and the cushion, but this upper is just really not doing it for me right now. However, I will still try and play in these, so maybe that very stiff leather upper breaks in. Then for fit and sizing, I did go through to size, and it fit me perfectly. Well, kind of perfectly. So the inner boot pretty much fit my foot 1-to-1. However, that stiff leather shell on the outside kind of had a little bit of dead space. Then if you are a wide footer, I think you should go up half a size, because that inner material is nice and soft and could probably accommodate your foot. But again, that leather shell is super stiff, so there aren't any promises that it's gonna break in. Then for the aesthetic details, you do have this small Nike swoosh here at the heel part of the outsole. And then of course you have that carbon fiber midfoot shank. And here on the right shoe, you have the number 2. And then on the left shoe, you have the number 4. Then here at the back of the shoe, you do have Zoom branding as well as the Kobe logo. You also have Kobe written here in very small text here at the forefoot. And then you have medium-sized Nike swooshes here on the medial side as well as the lateral side. Then here at the base of the tongue, you do have that Kobe logo on that plastic piece. Then you also have this 24 here on the strap as well as Kobe. Then here at the back of the strap, you do have Carpe Diem written, which is definitely one of Kobe Bryant's favorite sayings. And then here at the top of the tongue, you do have another Kobe logo. And then here on the tongue, as well as the medial and the lateral side, you do have these triangular cutouts for ventilation. This is probably my favorite aesthetic detail because nothing really stands out since it's all gray. Then for the overall aesthetic, since this is one of the earlier Kobe's, it does have this mid-cut look, and it is kind of in line with the Kobe 1 in the sense that it does look a little bit bulky, but also just like the Kobe 1, I feel like it has just enough sleekness to it to make it not look so much like a boot. And then for this particular colorway in general, I just don't like monochromatic shoes. So I feel like there are so many places where you can add color, but I do understand that this was in the Fade to Black series, so you know, you really couldn't do anything. From a purely honest aesthetic standpoint, it's pretty meh, and I'd much rather wear a pair of like Kobe 2 All-Stars with the white and the red. But you know, that's just me, and I know there are definitely some people that like a more monochromatic look. So please sound off in the comment section down below if you like the monochromatic look on these Kobe 2s, or even if you just like monochromatic shoes in general. Then for the price, when the Kobe 2 Fade to Blacks released in 2016, it retailed for $200 US. It was also really limited, so everyone here in the Philippines had a hard time getting them because we had to get them overseas. This also meant that if you got it on the resale market, you're gonna have to pay some extra. So I was able to grab mine on the resale market, so I got it from an app called Carousel. So I got my pair from Sir James Torrefiel, and he really did keep them in good condition, and it was complete with everything from that tag to that brochure as well as the OG box. So I was able to buy these from him at 13,000 pesos or around $260 US. So I did pay quite a premium for these, but it actually is a lot cheaper than other places where you could get these because these these could easily fetch over 15,000 or 16,000 pesos. These are pretty hard to find, and I'm just glad that I was able to find them because they've pretty much only re-released these twice, with the Prelude pack in 2013 and the Fade to Black pack in 2016. So there you have it, guys. That concludes episode 2 of the Kobe hunt, featuring the Nike Zoom Kobe 2 Fade to Black. So if you liked the video, please make sure to leave a thumbs up down below. Then if you have any comments, questions, or any suggestions for any future videos, please feel free to leave them in the comment section down below as well. Then also sound off in the comment section down below if you're like me and you wish that they did Protro the Kobe 2s. And if you do, let's go and petition to Nike to make a Protro. Then if you haven't already yet, please make sure to subscribe and hit that bell icon for notifications. It would help us out a lot here at Sneaks and Ball PH.